What's up, my dudes? This is the track review of Skyfall MX, and check out this wheelie right here. Whoa, bro. Oh my gosh, dude. This track right here, man, there is just, there's something about it that is like this high-speed scrubbing, and it just has such a flow to it. I was almost going to do a 125 wide open video on this track, but I was just having too much fun on it with the 450, and I wanted to actually do a review on it because I think it's a pretty well-made design of a track. It's actually pretty different than most of the stuff that you see out there, so man, it's funny how you can have something that is so basic as far as off-track, like standard woodland trees. You got some squirrels over there with acorns in their mouth. I mean, it's as standard as you can get. But when you make the on-track something fun and unique, it just has a way of blocking all of that other shit completely out. It has a funny way of doing that. And I don't know. I mean, I think the off-track plays a very big part, but not as much as the on-track, man, because when I'm sitting here thinking of it, like, you could have a, oh, and by the way, I didn't even realize that corner was there. This is my first time ever riding on this half of the track, so, but it's funny how, like, it seems that when you have a track that has a really good off-track, but a shitty on-track, then it's still, the track can still feel shitty. But when you have a track that has a shitty off-track, but a really good on-track, then the track can feel pretty good. So, you know, the on-track is definitely more important than the off-track, but every once in a while you'll get those tracks that get the on-track really good and the off-track really good, and then those are just legendary at that point. But there's still some really fun tracks out there that just have subpar, you know, standard woodland off-tracks on them, and they're still a ton of fun. But yeah, just the overall layout and design of this track is something completely different than I've ever experienced on a track before. There's just something about it. It's kind of like it just has a different sort of flow to it than you normally see, and it's very common for people to get stuck in that rut of just making those tracks that are on a perfectly flat surface, even motocross tracks. And it's not like you got to have this crazy elevation like some Glen Helen shit on every track, but it's just having a little bit of it in there just adds to the realism, like how you just flow through these mountains, even though it's not, or hills, I should say, even though it's not like a lot of elevation, it's still enough to where it just, the realism kicks in to another degree when it's like that. But see right here, you got a line option where you can hook up to that, and there's actually a couple of pretty fun sections on this track where it's like super fast going 69 miles an hour, and you're jumping over some different, like, very high speed kind of whoop roller sections. So even though it looks pretty simplistic and basic, which a lot of the sections kind of are, there still are some places where you got to be on it, even on a 450, to clear some of this stuff properly. So but you can see these corners, they're just enough to where you can bank up on them fairly decently. But right here is one of those sections, so you can hook this all the way, and then you can hook that all the way, but I came up a little bit short and then got squirrely on it. So but you can, like, see, that's a line right there that is actually really hard to figure out because you have to be going so fast. It's almost like a supercross section in the sense of you can never really let off, but it's on a motocross straightaway, so you got to be on it from the corner to the jump, but you have tons of room from the corner to the jump, so you wouldn't, just in your mind thinking how standard motocross is, you wouldn't think you would have to do that, but you do on that section. So but right here, fun, you kind of just naturally flow down that hill. But this off-track sort of darker green colored grass to it looks nice. Definitely a decent touch to it, better than the kind of more basic Play-Doh looking off-track billboards, those really standard looking grass billboards. I like these more hyper-realistic style billboards and statues and stuff like that. Even though I know a lot of my tracks don't really have that hyper-realistic stuff, I like to see it on tracks, and I'm going to try to get more into that hyper-realistic style custom tracks with this game. I think that man, it just gives it a whole different feel when you get tracks like that. But you can see how he's done right here. You see on the side to the right how it's just got that natural hill. This dude just knows what he's doing, making custom tracks. Like, he knows what makes something look real and feel natural. He just knows how to do it. Some people have that Midas touch when it comes to that, and some people don't. You could say I don't on a lot of tracks. I'm not sitting here trying to act like I'm the best custom track maker or whatever, but I'm learning and I'm getting better at it. And I think some of my custom tracks on tracks have been a lot better than my like earlier days. So but it all just depends on what you're going for. At the same time, sometimes you're not going for something that feels super realistic like that. Sometimes you're going for something that just feels fun, and I've done that on a bunch of custom tracks. But as far as like just getting it real, that's something that not everybody has the ability to do, and this guy does. So that's something you can tell from like somebody that's been doing it for a while and they know what they're doing with it. That's how they learn that kind of stuff, making it feel real like that. And even the ground decal, it's not super realistic on this track, but it still feels real because the track is built so well in that sense. Now this track may bore some people absolutely to death when you compare it to like modern AMA tracks, because it's pretty smooth, and it almost has like a stock track vibe to it a little bit in some sections where it's just like really wide, super sweeper stuff like that going on. But it's still fun, and it does have jump sections like this one right here. This is one of the most tricky motocross jumps I've hit in a while. You gotta hit it pretty hard. You can't just be like half throttle on the 450, or you won't land it all the way to the landing. You'll land like right on top of the tabletop, but to get it all the way to the landing and still make this corner rut right here on the inside is actually pretty tricky. So there are a couple of areas where it's a bit more difficult like that, but I think the tricky part to this track is being able to like hold the gas on in the corners and angle your bike properly to get it to go the way you want to in certain areas, because that's really the way most of the track is. It's like that really wide, like I was saying, kind of like a stock track. So you got to learn how to shift gears and make the bike angle itself without ever letting off the gas, I think is really the kind of the like point to this track in a sense. It's kind of like the what could separate you if you were racing on it or something like that. But there are some inside rut lines and stuff, but it's definitely not a rutty track or a hyper realistic track in that sense at all. It's not like ruts, tons of ruts going up the face of the jump or anything like that. It's more simplistic, kind of smoothed off style track. But as far as the layout and the way the actual natural elevation of it is, that is more realistic. So you can have like certain aspects of the track be super realistic and other aspects of it not be as realistic, and sort of combine those in really cool ways to get different outcomes with certain tracks. You don't always just have to have every aspect of the track super realistic or just super fantasy and fun. You can kind of combine elements of it. And I think that's really cool, because like you could have a hyper-realistic ground decal on a space track or something. So therefore then you have something that's like a realistic sci-fi track, and I love the thought of that as well. Or like a realistic Sands of Time track or something, and that's a cool. I've always loved that sort of theme. You know, most time when you talk about aliens and stuff like that, it's more like a cartoon look to everything. But I really like the thought process of like real aliens, like if you could see that shit in real life. You know, like I've just always been a big fan of that when it comes to like sci-fi, like super realistic sci-fi looking stuff. I always thought it was pretty cool. But he did a nice job of kind of different trees and smaller bushes and things like that, just being able to sort of you know, blend all of the off track together where nothing looks super cleared out or anything like that. It looks like you're in a fairly standard woods kind of area here, so definitely a good job on that. Certain areas got a ton of trees, certain areas, this is a pretty good example of what I know I always talk about your tree placement. He did a pretty good job of it. You can see this one type of tree right here, and it's got that certain spaced out look to it, and then you come over here and you see how it looks completely different, and then you come over here and then like to the outside and it looks pretty different right here, and then you come to the outside, it looks totally different over here. So it's kind of like he's got 3 or 4 different types of tree layouts here, so you never feel like you're just repetitive looking at the exact same kind of tree placement. So he kept his realism in that sense. But yeah, as far as overall, I would give this track a it's definitely a good scrub track, dude. A lot of these jumps, they have just enough of a smoothed off lip on it where you can just lay it over, bro. This is a scrub track. If you're trying to practice that, yeah, buddy, this is it right here. Some of these sections, I know this one section right over here on the first start straight, it's not even really a jump, I don't think, but you can scrub the fuck out of it right here. And even on this little jump right here, you might be doing more of a whip right here than a scrub, but there are quite a few other sections you can kind of pull that scrub line because of how the corners sweep out, like I was saying, and you're always trying to, it's like you're always trying to sort of hit something at an angle, so it just kind of naturally flows for that sweeping style of a scrub. But overall, I would give this track a 7, and I would say the difficulty is, it's probably easy. It's just not enough like hardcore roughness or big enough jumps to really be any sort of super difficult whatsoever.